Conservative candidates have made it through to the next round in the race to replace Boris Johnson as Prime Minister, with voting taking place later today to whittle down the crowded field even further.
We can speak to a former hopeful, Transport Secretary Grant Shapps. You're only recently a former hopeful, but you are now throwing your support behind Rishi Sunak. We have seen already this morning, Daily Mail has kind of come out fighting, saying that Rishi is going to be effectively a socialist Prime Minister. What do you make of that?
I don't think that's very likely. Good morning, by the way. I don't think that's very likely. I think that he is going to tackle inflation, which is a very conservative thing to do. I think he's going to grow the economy, which is a hugely conservative thing to do. And then he's going to make sure that we cut taxes. In fact, he cut some taxes last week. So I think he's, I think he's what you might describe as a fiscally conservative conservative. You
said, Grant, that if you were the Conservative Prime Minister, you said at the weekend, you wouldn't wait for the Chancellor's plans. You'd have an emergency budget within days, a basic rate cut by 1p. You wouldn't go ahead with the corporation tax rise. You would increase defence spending to 3%. Big bill for that. That's the kind of thing which Rishi Sunak called fairy tale economics. Have you decided to see the light and come in behind your prudent fellow contestant? Well, just to be clear, my plans were kind of the next most similar to Rishi, as you might say, and then the rest of the candidates had plans which were to do tax cuts quicker. But then you get into the problem of, does that stoke inflation? It could add in 10, 20, 50 billion pounds to the economy, and then you start to get inflation taking off. We get into a 1970s thing, which we didn't want to. My plans were quite moderate, actually. What I would have done was brought forward a tax cut to this year worth £175. But nonetheless, what I thought was, first of all, I would love to have gone forward. The rules were changed on Monday to double the number of nominations from previous competitions, meaning that I needed to drop out anyway. And secondly, I think that Rishi is somebody who'd be able to step into this job and get on with it from day one. And I think given the immense problems that face our country, indeed the world, with that war in the east, in Ukraine, I think we need somebody like that. And that is why I'm backing Rishi. I think he's ready for the job, whereas, actually I think others might find it difficult to step into that role straight off the bat. It's quite a challenge, though, isn't it, politically, because you're appealing to the Conservative members. Every other candidate is going to be saying, I'm going to cut taxes. And the former Chancellor, the guy you're now backing, is the only one saying, no, wrong thing to do. We won't cut taxes right now. We've got to prioritise stability in the public finances. I mean, he has gone out on a limb. What do you think the Conservative electorate is going to think of this? Is this really a winning strategy? Well, we'll see, won't we? But actually, I should just say one thing. All the other candidates have talked about cutting taxes. Rishi actually cut taxes last week, and there's this huge tax cut, £330 on average. Everyone's NI going up to 12,500, just over. So you won't pay national insurance until you earn that amount. That's actually a big tax cut, and he's already done it. He's cut the fuel duty. He cut 4p off a price of petrol, so. We've actually seen some, sort of 5p, I think it was. We've actually seen some of these tax cuts already, and his mind is there. He wants to do that. As he said yesterday, it's not a question of if we do tax cuts, it's when we do them. And he's just being responsible in terms of not further stoking inflation. I mean, you're a former shadow chancellor. You know how you have to weigh up all these different competing problems for an economy. Not stoking inflation now at 10%, which really hits your viewers' costs of living, is the number one thing that he wants to make sure he avoids. Of course, we've now got a Chancellor in place, Nadhim Zahawi, who kind of had a bit of a journey on one day last week where he seemed to be backing Boris Johnson and then told him to leave. He's now a candidate in the election. He is still the Chancellor of the country. Asked this morning how he would pay for all the tax cuts he's promised. He said he would be evidence-based. I have to say, that is the least chancellorial way of explaining how you would pay for something I've ever heard. I'll be evidence-based. I mean, isn't that the most fairy tale economics thing you could think of? And he's currently the Chancellor of the country.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair to say that, until we get the leadership election over, which was actually very quick, that's one of the reasons why those rules were changed to allow fewer candidates in a sense. So by the 5th of September, we'll have a new Prime Minister in place, we'll have a new Chancellor in place, and those big decisions won't be made till then. But actually, it rather returns to my central point. When I looked around the field of candidates, knowing that I was then not going to stand, I was looking for somebody who was sort of responsible, sort of grown up about it, already understood economics, because this is the single biggest issue, the cost of living squeeze is the single biggest issue. And again, that took me straight to Rishi rather than one of the other candidates. Somebody who's really got the experience to get on with the job from day one in Downing Street.
Your pitch at the weekend was you could win seats for the Conservatives or hold seats, because this could be quite a tough election, given the by-elections we saw recently. You reportedly send a strategy to every Conservative MP telling them how they could win their seat. Are you a bit worried that at the moment the Conservative Party has become a bit complacent about the next election? And do you think Rishi Sunak is the only person who actually understands this is going to be quite tough?
It's definitely going to be quite tough. And I don't, by the way, I don't think anyone's particularly complacent within the party. Everyone understands that we've been through a difficult period as a country, and that tends to reflect on the government of the day. And the same thing's happening in many countries around the world. Not only having to go through coronavirus and pay for all of that, but now this war in the East with Putin walking into Ukraine, and the stresses and strains that's putting on things like petrol prices, as we were just saying, tends to make the government of the day look a lot less popular. We understand that, but we also understand that what people are going to want are the serious policies. They're going to look after people's livelihoods. Things like the fact that we have almost record low unemployment and record levels of employment, a growing economy again today in the latest figures, are a testament to the fact that we are still, regardless of all this other stuff going on, the war and recovering from coronavirus, getting on with looking after the economy and trying to make sure that we're running this country as efficiently as possible. In my area of transport, I'm working very hard to try and make sure people can get away this summer after airports and airlines are having a difficult time recovering from coronavirus. So, I mean, we're still doing the bread and butter stuff. It's still 2.5 years till the next election. I think we need a serious Prime Minister who can step right into the role, and I think that's Rishi Sunak.
A serious Prime Minister. Do you regret those times when you came on our programme and defended the indefensible over Partygate? You always looked very uncomfortable trying to defend Boris Johnson. Yeah, do you regret it now?
Well, I mean, you know that I was uncomfortable, and you know the reason why as well, Ed, because I couldn't see my dad in hospital for a very, very long time, for 4 months. Do you regret it now? Didn't think we were going to see it. No, well,
and I said to you earlier.
Yeah, well, I said to you at the time, that was upsetting. Having said that, what I said to you at the time is still the case, that I believe that a Prime Minister with Boris, who had sorted out the sort of Brexit, 6 years of that, who had got the injection into people's arms first, the vaccine, and who had been outstanding with Ukraine, on balance, still deserved, I think, the benefit of doubt. That was my view. In the end, of course, one thing led to another to another. There were too many problems. And that's why, in the end, Boris Johnson had to stand down. So, look, I don't go around sort of having regrets in life. You know how I felt about that. That hasn't changed. Right. But on balance, I thought that he, although flawed, was also very good and very, very good in other ways. And that view remains for me.
Grant Shapps, good luck for the campaign.
Thank you.
And good luck for the next reshuffle, because I know you'll be worrying about that day by day by day.
Good luck with getting on with the job as well, because it feels like it's a distraction, doesn't it, from the actual work of government that needs to be continually done day by day.